I had one of you guys over in the district call me and say,
I'd like to call the June 14th Finance meeting to order. Mr. McConnell, could you please lead us in prayer following the pledge?
Thank you for that notice. Father in heaven, once again, we thank you for the freedom that we have to gather here together as free people, as intelligent people, hopefully intelligent people who can debate and discuss the issues that are important to your people, to our people, to all of the people of Ascension Parish. Please give us the wisdom and the guidance that we need to make the best decisions for all of the people of this parish. Bless all of our leaders, Father. It's a difficult job sometimes to make these decisions, but we know that with your guidance we can do the right thing. As always, we ask you to protect our brothers and sisters in uniform, whether they be here or in faraway lands. Please protect them and bring them home safely to their families and soon. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. I think Councilman Tyler Lambert is out. Also, Councilman Kent Shakespeare.
Councilman Burke.
Yes, Mr.
I spoke
Thompson.
to him earlier, Kent, and he indicated he was going to try to be here.
Yes, I also talked to him.
Thank you.
Chair's additions, I don't think we have any. Public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak, please sign a speaker card. If y'all can, we'd like to move 8. Take it up now. We have some professionals here. If there's any questions, there may be an answer on 8.
motion to amend the agenda, move item number 8.
Motion by Mr. Hillensbeck, second by Mr. Salvo. Any further discussion? Any opposition? Number 8, architect progress payment on jail expansion in the amount of $152,219.50. Mr. Sigler.
Councilman, I received an invoice from Aber and Associates, I believe, early last week. In that amount, I believe you've got a copy of it, and that represents completed plans ready to bid for the jail expansion. It's no real surprise. It just needs approval. Just want to make you aware of it. But at this point now, we do have a project ready to bid.
What's the wishes of the committee? Mr. Valentine.
Mr. Bagger, what's the amount?
This amount's $152.
I mean, don't we have $1 million in the budget already? I mean, I don't understand the problem.
We can do it.
I got Mr. Ziegler's email. It's not as short and as sweet as what he's saying now. He had some suggestions. I was looking for that, but if we need a motion to go ahead and pay the $152, I'll go ahead and make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Valentine, second by Mr. Thompson. Any further discussion? Mr. Hillensback.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I remember we, back at the council meeting, at a previous council meeting, we decided we was going to allow bond council to go forward, and all we were doing at that meeting was making sure we could borrow up to a certain amount of money, and I believe the discussion was then that we would have some more discussion on what type of facility we were going to build. Am I correct, Mr. Valentine? I thought that was going to come back because I don't believe there was ever a vote of any of the committees of the council as to what size facility we decided on. And that's all, my point. And if it was decided, it wasn't decided by this body. It might have been decided by 2 or 3 sitting around the table. I don't know, but just want to make that point. And I thought it was pointed out that night that we were going to have some discussion and we were going to have some input. And I certainly don't want to slow the process down. I know we need a jail expansion, but I just thought we were going to have some more discussion as a body. That was the understanding I had from the statements made that night at the council meeting. Thank you.
Mr. Valentine.
Actually, after I got Mr. Ziegler's email, I called the sheriff and talked with bond attorneys, which are here tonight. I did have some discussion before I went on vacation a couple of weeks ago with the administration. I called Mr. Pierce today, but obviously he was busy. He didn't get a chance to return my call. One of the things I did want to put on the agenda for the next meeting, which is next Thursday, is the fact that we would put the jail expansion on and moving it from the 100-bed expansion to the 250-bed or 300-bed expansion so this council can debate whatever we need to debate on it and move on with the project. I think the administration is in agreement, at least the discussion I had with him, and Parish President, you can speak for yourself naturally, we talked about this, and this was the avenue we were going to take. So if you want to add something to that, Parish President, just for information to the council, I plan to put that on the agenda. I say we have our packets already, so it'll probably be a 2/3 that we'll put on the agenda for.
It can still be added.
Okay. Well, I thought it could.
About midnight tonight.
That's what I thought it would. Okay.
And if I could, Mr.
Yes.
We did have that meeting, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, and then Mr. Valentine left on vacation, so we haven't discussed it, but we are planning on discussing that with the entire council next Thursday night, Mr. Hillenbeck. You bring up a good point. You are right and correct in that the council has never voted to appropriate any more money than the $1 million that's in the 07 budget. And I don't think we addressed that in the budget amendment of last week. So we do have to do that. The council has to decide if you want a 100-bed expansion, a 240-bed expansion, or a 300-bed expansion. And then once you decide that, we'll sit down with the leadership and the sheriff and move forward. So it's the wishes of the council what you want to do in that regard. But at this time, we only have $1 million in the current budget for the jail expansion. Now, that money is not dedicated for a specific part of it. Just attorney fees, for example, engineering fees, architect, or building. It's just $1 million in the budget. So we can use this money that we currently have to pay. Now, I guess the only question I would ask Mr. Ziegler is this portion of the architectural fee, does that represent a 100-bed expansion or more?
Well, actually, we have completed plans for a jail that can handle 240 or 300 beds. There's almost no difference in the two. Basically, just the cost of the beds. And
do we owe this firm at least this amount of money?
Sure.
For the work that they were doing, we're looking at the expansion. Just
I think we definitely owe them this.
So it's your recommendation that the council approve this?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Mr. Joseph.
Mr. Ziegler, have the property been cleared yet for the jail hall? Have been straightened up?
We are approximately, from what Ricky told me the other day, we're probably about 30 days from the actual ruling from the judge that will give us clear title where we can move on and start moving ditches.
Is there a dollar amount in that transaction there?
We've put on deposit, I believe it's $72,000 or $73,000 and some change that we believe is the value. And really, once the judge rules, there could be a possible change in the value if the heirs argue the value, but we would still have possession of the property while that negotiation takes place. So we've got about 30 days until we can actually do any dirt work there.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hillenbeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I'll go ahead and probably support this, but I think it's another case of where we're putting the cart before the horse. And we get to, time and time again, we get to council meetings, and it's always rush, and not all of us have been filled in, and not all of us have been at the table to discuss these issues. And like I say, I think I made the point, I made it well at the previous council meeting, that at what point did the architectural firm get the green light to go from 100 bed to 300 bed? Because as a collective body, none of us ever decided that, to my knowledge. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am wrong. But I just, when we get to the council meetings at this point, time and time again, items don't want to be discussed. Well, we've handled that in committee. Well, we're in the committee now, and that's the point I'm making, is that I just don't believe this has been discussed. I certainly haven't received any emails from Mr. Sigler on this issue. But someone has been meeting, and the point I'm making is not all of us have been in on those meetings and when those decisions have been made, and I think it's really a small number of us. So that's the point I'm making. And other than that, if the body wants to go ahead and approve an invoice for $152,000, and there's been very little discussion, that's fine. If that's what y'all want to do, I guess I'll go along with the body.
Well, Mr. Hillsbeck, I mean, it is an agenda item to pay an architect for that many beds. If you'd like to have that discussion, we can take it up.
Well, the question I'm asking, we'll take it up.
Let's go.
We'll take it up. Who authorized, when did authorization take place by a vote to authorize the architect to go out and build a facility for 240, 300 beds? This body, no one on committee or no one from the council ever voted and approved. All we approved in our motion was to allow legal counsel to go forward and ask bond commission if we could borrow the money to build this facility. So I'm just asking, if you'll show me in the minutes that we voted on this previously.
I think we stated that it hadn't been voted on.
Pardon me?
I think we stated it has not been voted on.
Well,
it's here for discussion tonight. Let's quit beating out of it.
I'm not beating
and discuss it if we're going to pay for it or not.
My point again, I think you're missing the point, Mr.
No,
Valentine.
I think you've made your point.
Well, obviously not, because you're not understanding what I'm saying.
Mr. Valentine, you had the floor.
There has been discussion. I think Mr. Hillensbeck probably may or may not have remembered. I mean, we had Mr. Ziegler, Parish President. We met with the sheriff. We've been talking about this. We authorized Jerry Hebert to work with the sheriff. In fact, if y'all remember, he came back and asked about the fact that once he got into it, that it looked like it was going to need to be a little bit bigger. Mr. Hillensbeck may not have been called. Everybody knows what Mr. Hillensbeck wanted to do. He wanted to put them on barges in the Mississippi River. So, I mean, we know where his stance was. So, I mean, there's no sense in calling Mr. Hillensbeck to find out what his ideas are. So, point being is, we got something before us, $152,000. Let's go ahead and authorize to pay it. Now, we don't have to pay this. We can, and this also can be reimbursed once the bonds are sold. I mean, that's typically what's done, right, Mr. Ziegler?
That's right. That's what I was suggesting.
Some of his comments in the email that he sent. So I don't think there's any risk involved in this, and we need to get on with the business of taking care of the jail population. And if you guys got the email over the, last week where our prisoners have increased on the female side, we have, I think, Parish President, 21 down in St. Charles at the present time that we're housing. I mean, that's costing us a lot of money. So we're going to be able to use that money that we're spending for that, the cost share that the sheriff is going to do with us, and I think this will be a great addition to the parish.
If I may,
Mr. Hillensback.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, and I stated this also at a previous council meeting, we got a lot of needs in this parish, a lot of needs. And as far as how we deal with our prisoner population, I'm not going to tell the sheriff what he needs to do. But I am very concerned that we're moving a process forward where only a few were involved and decisions have been made. And again, there's never been a vote where we've decided one way or the other what size facility we're building, where we're going with. But however, we're out there paying an architect to move forward on between a 240 and 300 bed expansion. That's all. That's my point. Now we need monies for roads. We need monies for a lot of things in this parish. We need water and sewer. We need. I think we need Lamar Dixon. And
let's stay on task.
And I am on task, Mr. Byerger. Thank you. As far as my comment to the sheriff, I don't think that's such a bad idea. Sheriff of Maricopa County takes the prisoners and marches them out in the desert, and they build their own camp. And I'm not suggesting that to the sheriff. I'm not telling him how to run his business. because Sheriff does a great job, and I consider him a friend, and I'm a supporter of his. But I just, once again, there has been no official vote authorizing the architect to go forward with any size facility, and at the last meeting it was discussed we were going to have a meeting and some of this stuff was going to be discussed. Well, it's not been discussed, not by the committee of the whole. Thank you. I'm finished, Mr. Byron.
President Hughes.
Why don't we do this, ladies and gentlemen, and I think I suggested this a while back about putting together a council committee to work, and so everybody feels they have complete access to everything that's taking place. And I would suggest to the council that since Mr. Hillensbeck obviously has a real interest in this, that we put him on there. Our next meeting with the sheriff and the coordinating committee, if that's okay with Mr. Valentine, and whatever you guys want to do. But there are some points on both sides that we need more full disclosure and a transparent process. I understand that, and you're right, Mr. Hillensbeck. I don't remember the council ever voting on we're going to do 100 beds. Now the talk was when we did the budget, as I remember this, last fall, we were just talking about a 100-bed expansion. So therefore we had got an estimate from some consultants that would cost about $1 million. Once, and there was a vote taken, and I was a little uncomfortable with it because we did kind of have an open-ended architectural contract, but with a firm that did do jail business. And so obviously when we hire a contract, you also expect that consultant to let you know if you're heading down a path that may not be the best path. So, and they did do that, and they did suggest that 100 beds would not last probably long enough based on our population growth, especially since Katrina. And so I'm very comfortable with whatever the council wants to do here. I want everybody to be involved in the process. Obviously you have to vote on what, our legal duty is to provide a jail for the sheriff to manage and operate, okay? Right. And obviously we want our prisoners off the streets and in jail.
Right.
And so, and we are spending extra money in other parish facilities because we, especially on the female population side, we do not have enough space that is acceptable to the courts now for a female prisoner. And so we are spending a lot. It costs us a lot more when we go rent jail space. I'm going to use that terminology, and I think it is St. Charles Parish. Then it costs us to have that same person in our own jail. Right. It's quite a bit. I think it's about 6 or 7 times more. Right. And so, well, I'm not going to get in a debate here on this. I'm the administrator. I'm going to work with the council and try to move this project along. Right now we have $1 million in the budget. If the council wants to spend more money on the jail than that, you've got to reach an agreement on what you want to do and how much you want to spend for it. The State Bond Commission in the May meeting did approve the ceiling of up to $11 million. You don't have to spend any of it, or you can spend all of it, or almost all of it. So whatever the council decides to do, we will work with that committee or subcommittee or whatever you guys want to do to help reach an agreement on what we need to do as far as the size of the expansion. But I'm convinced now, obviously, that 100 beds is probably not the right way to go.
And I agree with that. I have no problem with that.
Now, if it's 250 or 300, I don't know what the right number is. I'm not obviously a jail construction expert, nor do I have a crystal ball to forecast the prison population for the next few years. But hopefully we'll do something that will last us 10, 15, 20 years down the road before we have to do this again, or council in the future has to do it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Mr. Thompson.
I understand the way Mr. Hillenbeck feels, and but if the architecture did this work, I think we need to move forward and go ahead on and pay him. This jail expansion is needed. We have a lot of problems here in the parish with having to ship prisoners to other areas, and I think we need to move forward and not do anything to hold the process up.
It's right at about 300.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to concur with Mr. Thompson on this. This is work that has been performed, and if you notice the scope of the entire project, we were going to pay pretty much this amount, whether it were 100 beds or 250 beds, whatever that number may be.
Yeah.
This is an amount incurred for architectural work, no matter how many beds are involved there. There's nowhere in here that says how many beds are there. And I want to remind every one of us sitting up here that all we're doing is making a recommendation to the full council. The final vote on the payment of this invoice will not be until at the next week's council meeting. So this is just a recommendation, and that gives a whole week for people to get additional information. But nonetheless, the work was done, and it would be within the scope regardless of the number of beds. So I think we should proceed with this, and let's get it done, and let's make some things happen.
I make the motion.
It's already been made.
It's already made.
We already have them. Mr. Sabo?
Yeah. Gentlemen, Ms. Fontenot, one thing that we need to know, that we need to let the council, bond council know, is some hard numbers. And that's what we're waiting on. And hopefully we can have that for next week. We need hard numbers coming from what it's going to cost for the 240 bed or the 300 bed, whatever it is we decide, which architect firm should be able to tell us that by then. We also need hard numbers for the sewer project, because remember, we're putting these two projects together, going after whatever money's necessary. We did have public discussion about the 100-bed concept, that as soon as it was finished, we were going to still need extra beds. That's why the 240-bed number started coming up, and it was discussed in a public meeting. And the architect was given some direction from that, stemming from that meeting, from what I remember. But we need to have that ready so that we can tell the bond commission, bond attorney, what to go get. That's the next step, because that was in your email, a concern about how we were going to pay it. We're going to pay it by floating a bond.
Well, and I understand that we're floating a bond. My concern short term is for bond money arrives on preliminary things like the sewer, moving the ditches, which needs to happen before any construction takes place. And for next week, you'll have some pretty good hard numbers, understanding that the projects don't go out for bid until about July the 1st. So it'll be towards the end of July before we have the actual bid amount. But they should be pretty close, because these guys know what they're doing, and they do them all the time.
Well, we would love to have those hard numbers so that we can go ahead and take action at that time, so we can finish this part of it and let them start their proceedings on the bonds. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Valentine, second by Mr. Thompson. Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries.
Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Valentine.
I got one more final comment. Just to let you know that...
Mr. Valentine, we have taken a vote. If you don't mind, let's move on.
Problem.
Thank you. Number 5, Lamar Dixon report. Eddie Crawford.
Eddie Crawford's unable to attend this afternoon. My name is Richard Billingsley. I'm the accounting manager for Lamar Dixon, and I'll be presenting the April financials. The month of April had a net income of $8,370 with a budgeted income of $3,786, leaving a positive variance of $4,584. This gives a positive variance of $53,000 for the total year. Our total event income for the month was $111,000. We held 5 business parties for a net of $21,873. We had a trade show for a net of $6,446, a dog show for a net of $2,842, a fire chiefs convention for a net of $3,675, a bicycle motocross for a net of $6,935, and a bicentennial for the net of $60,732. Our indirect expenses were $151,871, with budgeted expense of $146,262, with a negative variance of $5,609. The overage in the expense is primarily due to the maintenance and cleanup prior and after the bicentennial, as well as preparation for the bicentennial motocross.
Any questions, comments for Mr. Richard? Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Lambert.
I'd like to give the dates for the high school rodeo. This week, I think it starts the 17th.
The
The rodeo itself starts on the 17th. We have preliminary on the 16th. I believe it goes through next Friday.
Through next Friday. I apologize. I was in that ceremony to open today. What is the? We having some type of trade show also at the trademark? We're doing something a little different.
I could have Eddie answer that question, but I'm
I think it's Saturday.
It did have at 3 o'clock today the press conference for the State High School Rodeo Association with Commissioner of Agriculture, Mr. Bob Odom there, and others. And these are high school young people who participate in various events, I think about 11. And then those who qualify go to the National High School Rodeo. And I'm not sure where that is this year. It's June the 17th through the 23rd. There is an additional feature this year. This is the Dodge 58th Annual Louisiana High School Finals Rodeo. And on June the 21st through the 23rd in the Trademark Building from 11 to 6, there is like a trade show, expo, and I'm not sure exactly what that is. No price to go to the trade show. It's free admission, and you do pay, obviously, you buy tickets for the rodeo. This is the second year we're hosting it here in our parish, and they've signed a contract with the parish and SMG to host it for the next 2 years as well. Hope that answers your question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Savoy.
Yeah, I got one on first page on item B. You've got terms of event changed after budget was devised. Can you be a little more specific on that?
When the bicentennial was first, when we did our budget in October, the bicentennial was not for us. We were going to get a $50,000 flat fee, and that was it. No ancillary income. But in between that time and then the time the bicentennial happened, they took away our flat fee and said we get a commission on our ancillary income. That's why the direct income for that event is budgeted so high and the actual so low. But if you look at the ancillary, it's the exact opposite.
Look on page 2, Jaron. It balances out.
Okay. All right, that's good. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Mr. Valentine.
I was just curious. Could we, administration, I guess it would be SMG, supply us just a bicentennial report of donations and what we did? I mean, there was a lot of people at that facility, and I thought it was a great event, but I'd just like to see the breakdown on exactly what it took to put that situation on, because it was outstanding. Plus, I don't even know all the people that donated.
I'm glad to see you say something positive.
Well, it was.
Hold on now.
There's a lot of people I know donated money, and I'd just like to see who did that.
We, Ms. Robert and Ms. Kinchin, and I think there's 4 others on the committee. Well, the executive committee, and they still, there was a comptroller that was hired to work with this, with the promoter, and they're still going through paying the bills and I think discussing some bills and all, but we'll be happy to do that. And Ms. Robert told me they anticipate in another few days they'll have it all finished, and it looks like it's probably close to a break-even situation preliminarily what they gave me as far as finances, but it is we'll be happy to do that.
Okay.
And, Mr. Valentine, you want that as an agenda item, or you just want...
No, I just think that a report, make sure that all the councilmen have it.
Okay.
You know, make that available.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you, Mr. Richard.
Thank you.
Finance Department reports. Before we actually get to the agenda item, we have a public speaker, Ms. Catherine Goppert. Ms. Goppert, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Paperwork from the Finance Department documents that the administration completed and paid $17,277 for a stairway at the Parish President's office out of the 06 budget. I gave the paperwork to Chairman Behringer before the meeting. You should each have a packet with you. I'm giving you all the documentation I'll be talking about. I've got bullet points. This same project was duplicated in the 07 budget at a cost to taxpayers of $25,000. This really is unacceptable, unprofessional, unethical, and inexcusable. Those who consider that $25,000 of waste not worth discussing should really excuse themselves from public service. I believe that every penny counts. 2 items were listed in the proposed 07 budget under general administration and major building and grounds repairs. These were combined in the adopted budget. The Parish President's Office stairway was $25,000 and general repairs for $300,000. If you look at your documentation, it's even more disturbing. All these dates that I'm going to give you now are 06. If you go through your paperwork and flip, 5/22, a bid was made of $17,277 with all the drawings. 8/24, a purchasing memo was entered by the CAO. 8/24, the maintenance department responded and listed this as an emergency. 8/25, the finance department approved it per the 06 budget. 8/28 was approved by the CAO. 11/6, this is before the budget was approved by y'all on November 16th. The contractor's invoice, $17,277. 11/30, the purchase order dated 8/1 was entered. And 12/8, the voucher was paid to the contractor, $17,277. I just have some questions. Why was the completed stairway listed in the 07 budget? When the cost for the project was known in May to be $17,277, why was $25,000 added after the fact? Why was this new construction hidden under repairs? Why was it classified as an emergency? Really padding the budget like this with port projects really misrepresents the needs. It's deceptive and allows for future waste. No wonder the citizens find it difficult to trust elected officials. It is really time to put a stop to the wasteful spending. These dollars and others like them should be appropriated to provide services for citizens instead of frills for a few. If you look in the charter at C9, the last 2 pages, the governing authority may make inquiries and investigate accounts and records. I would ask that you investigate this, reappropriate this $25,000. You have a lot of needs. We have a lot of needs. Acting on this information will demonstrate your willingness to bring accountability to the use of public funds. Thank you.
A, Sales and Use Tax Report. Ms. Gwen LeBon, CFO Treasurer. We have Ms. Amanda Barat tonight.
Good evening. This is the sales tax report for May 2007 collections. For East Ascension drainage, compared to 2006, we collected $9,918 more for the month of May. Year to date, we collected $28,312, which is 0.75% increase. Over the budget for East Ascension drainage, we're above budget by 7.38%. On the 1-cent sales tax, we collected $133,476, more than last year, which is 13.64%. Year to date, we collected 9.19% more, and we're about 17.59% above budget. Sales tax district number 2, we collected year to date 9.63%, and we're above budget by 16.61%. The second chart lets you know where the sales tax is coming from. 43% is coming from the petrochemical industry and suppliers. 32% is coming from consumer retail. 10% is coming from business to business, and 15% is motor vehicles. The third chart is just a comparison chart comparing year-to-date from 06 to year-to-date 07, and it's broken down in the same categories. And then the fourth chart is just a history chart on each one of the sales taxes.
Any questions, comments from Ms. Amanda? Thank you, Ms. Amanda.
You also have the revenue and expenditure guideline through April. We won't review it unless y'all have any questions because we will only review the quarterly reports. So I just gave y'all that.
I want to take a couple minutes to scan it, make sure we don't have any questions. Mr. McConnell.
Is everything pretty much in line, Amanda, where
Yes,
where we
sir.
expect it to be? There are no surprises here, or?
No, and the things that are over, y'all last council meeting y'all approved the budget amendment. That is not does not reflect this
here.
because that will not be put into the June books.
So it'll all even out and wash out.
Yes, sir.
But because I'm skimmed through it and I don't really see anything out of line. We're right where we should be, I think.
Anybody else have anything for Ms. Barat?
Just hang on. Vincent, I'm still looking for.
Okay. We have some concern maybe on recreation. Can you tell us where that's at? Maybe we can review that.
It's on page 9, but the pages are not numbered, so.
Huh? He's fine, Ms. Barat. Thank you. Anything else? 7 contracts. Sandra Pereira.
As usual, I gave all of y'all your handouts. The first one is renewal for the quad area, between the quad area and Parish. There's a program information form attached to it. It lists everything that they do.
I move to renew the quad area cooperative endeavor agreement.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Savoy. Any discussion?
I do have a comment.
Mr. Savoy.
Please take the time to take a look at the programs that Quad Area has to offer. We have multiple programs out there that could be very beneficial to your constituents out there, and try to get the word out to them because there's a lot of great programs that they provide. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Any opposition to the motion?
Just
Mr. Hillensback.
one comment on the discussion side, and I think Councilman Savoy makes a good point. And Jerry, it might be a good idea to have Quad Area maybe come down and do a PowerPoint presentation to the council, and so it'd be televised, and so that the taxpayers out there and the citizens will understand and know what programs are available.
Ms. Winnie Sibley's been ill.
Mr. Savoy's comment. Pardon me?
I said Ms. Winnie Sibley, who's the director for Quad, has been ill.
Yeah.
And I spoke to her son this morning. Said she's better, so I could maybe get with him or her daughter to come.
I think that'd be beneficial to the public, and they could see maybe a presentation of what programs are out there available, and it'd be easier than us trying to get out there individually and do it. But let them come do one, or put it on Access 21, Channel 21, Channel 4 e-tail. So.
Mr. Shake Snyder.
Yes, I would also like us to look into it. Quad Area does, some very valuable things for us. I'm very much supporting of them doing that. However, as you look into it a little bit, there are some neighboring parishes that receive a proportion of benefits that seems to be greater. For example, St. James, and the possibilities of partnering with them to receive some of these services. I just think we ought to look into it and see if we're getting our proportionate share from this for the services that are provided. And I would ask that we do look into this. Maybe Mr. Savoy, if you could look into it, we could talk about it later. But I found out that there is some other services that are being received by other parishes that seems to be disproportionate to what we're getting. Maybe we can reap some more benefits.
Mr. Chairman.
So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Shake Snyder. We have Mr. Savoy.
Yeah, I've been in contact. I'm on the Quad Area board. I've already talked to them in discussion to come up with a video to where we can put it on our Access channel. So that's good. That's in the making.
Right.
Mr. Joseph.
And Jerry, since you mentioned that you're on that board, can you help us out on other side of the river to get that office back open. They had a funding cut, and they cut the service due to the funding cut on the west side. And that office is closed right now, so if you can work on that, I'd appreciate it.
The agency is actively looking for another grant to fill the one that expired.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Hillens back.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Kent, back to your comment about other parishes maybe getting a disproportionate or proportionate or greater share. I believe a lot of that funding is based on the poverty levels and how many poor folks you have, what have you, in the parish, or how many people actually need services. But you make a good point, and whatever funding's out there, we need to be sure to be getting our share of it for the people. So, thank you.
Any further discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries. 7C.
This is an agreement with ADAPCO Vector Control Services to provide aerial spraying. We already have a contract with East Baton Rouge Parish, but this would only serve as a backup for if there's an emergency, and East Baton Rouge is also needing spraying. So this would just be a backup.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion by Mr. Savoy, second by Mr. McConnell. Any discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries. 7D.
This is an amendment to the contract with the Animal Control Center to add the town of Sorrento for animal control and housing.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Dempsey Lambert.
Second.
Second by Mr. McConnell. Any discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion carries. 7E.
This is a new contract with Schmieder and Associates for GIS map services.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Hillensback.
Second.
Second by Mr. Shakespeare. Any discussion?
Just a question. I did get
Mr.
an opportunity
McConnell?
to read this. Is this in addition to all the GIS that we do through our own department, through LSU, through all of that? I mean,
Yes,
where does this fit in on what we already do?
This is a little different. Ray Schmieder also does work for the tax assessor collector.
Yeah, excuse me, Mr. Sigler, can you scoot over and speak in the mic? We can't hear you. Thank you.
Ray Schmieder has done work for planning department evidently in years past. We have an issue in that currently we don't have enough employees to keep we're behind on property splits. Every time a piece of property is split between different owners, in some cases it's 2 or 3 years before it's actually entered on the computer system, not just ours but the assessor collectors. And in particular lately, since I have been here, we've caught 3 different transactions that get all the way through the planning commission that the plat wasn't exactly right. Now, after it goes through planning and it's replatted, then that new plat is correct. But part of his service is that each and every transaction before it gets to any of our bodies will go through, as he's a surveyor, research the records, make sure that is in fact something true and correct we're looking at before. He digitizes it and places all the subdivisions on the system. And right now, many of our subdivisions are not on the system whatsoever in an interactive way. So we felt like this was a good, cost-effective way to get quite a bit done extremely quickly, because it's a lot less we'd end up paying 2 people to do it.
Okay, and on the remuneration here, up front it says a total cost not to exceed $30,000 per year, but it says, and I'm not fighting you on this, I just want to know, okay? Compensation will be made monthly based on a certified invoice for all work performed not to exceed $30,000. Each invoice must be signed, dated. This could be construed to read the monthly invoice is not to exceed $30,000. And I'm assuming on the front of this, it's not to, well, it does say up here not to exceed $30,000 per year,
and there's
but
only,
in here it says not to exceed $30,000 per month.
Okay, I didn't do the contract.
Mr. Buqua, help.
I think O'Neill is the one who drafted it.
O'Neill.
I'll get back with O'Neill on it and bring it back.
Then I would like to offer that as an amendment to the motion, that under the compensation section, that that statement where it says not to exceed $30,000, extend that by saying per year.
I second that.
Amendment by Mr. McConnell, second by Ms. Fontenot. Any further discussion?
Just one
Mr. Hillens back.
Thank you. Mr. Babbitt has always stated in meetings discussing contracts in the past, and you might want to make sure this is in there, Mr. Bourgeois, is that every contract that the council approves has a 30-day notice that they can end the contract, break the contract, so that might address that issue. Martin, if it is in the contract, and so if you got 30 days to, you could send one invoice for $30,000 as I read it, but maybe I'm reading it wrong. But I just want to make that comment.
Well, I would have to sign off on an invoice for $30,000 too, and I'm not going to happen.
Yeah, you're not going to do that. Okay, thank you,
Mr. Salvo.
Ron, did I understand you to say that we're behind on our mapping?
In some areas, yes.
Are we planning on using this firm? Question: how much do we owe this firm today?
I'm going to say we probably owe them about $10,000 in back invoices over time.
This is a new contract, right?
Right.
Now we're down to $20,000. Is that going to be enough for him to sufficiently handle the load
that will be plenty.
we have?
That will be plenty.
Okay.
For the remainder of this budget year, we'll rebudget. This will be a continuing item, I would imagine, for the next 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
President Hughes.
Isn't this the same firm?
Yes.
That the assessor uses, and we're just trying to coordinate.
And they have evidently done work in the past. This is one of those things I inherited, but he's evidently done work in the past for the planning department and I guess several others, because there's stamps on a lot of stuff.
Mr. Berger.
Mr. Valentine?
No, I was just, Sealensback made the motion kind of quick, and I thought this was something like a renewal, but I think I understand now. Yeah, it's a new contract, but in other words, it's going over the 10 now that you actually have to authorize, so it has to come to us. So we went into contract with these people actually thinking probably we'd spend less than 10. Is that what the theory is? Because if we already doing business with them and we knew it was going to be 30, this should have came to us before we spent any money with them. But is that what I'm hearing here?
Oh, I don't know we knew that.
This goes back more than I understand, sometime in the last year. And Mr. Ziegler brought this to me this morning on this. I remember a meeting with the assessor when I first took office, and with technology, the effort was to try to correlate and integrate our records so that when the assessor received new properties, new subdivision, they could more quickly get that onto the tax rolls and assess that property. And this was the firm that they were using, and this firm had done work before, and so I'm not sure exactly, George, what's happened in that since 3 years ago with them and her. I don't think we've ever got what I would call a seamless integration, where when we enter somebody gets a building permit and we enter that in our system, it's going to automatically go to the assessor system. Now, that's probably something we need to look at in the future, where all parish agencies and governments kind of have the same. You can do that and still have protections built in, and it would also, I think it would help save, and it would help. The assessor was way behind with this, and obviously this is an effort to try to help her catch up and get our stuff up to date. So what precipitated some of this recently, one of the assignments I gave Mr. Ziegler was come in and tell me, how many lots do we have approved in our parish that are not built on? What do our permits look like? What are we forecasting for the next few years in growth? And as he got into this, he found some of this. And I haven't met with this gentleman probably in 2.5, 3 years. This was someone that the assessor brought to us to try to integrate these two programs so that she would immediately get access when we approve the new subdivision, goes on the tax rolls, and she'd have those lot numbers and so forth and go out and assess them now.
Okay. I was just a little confused on when we started doing business with them, because this is not dated.
I think we actually started doing business with them prior to us coming together on the council and administration. That this firm had been used, some by the parish and by the assessor, it's not completely clear to me who was always paying the bills.
Okay.
You know, the assessor's office or parish government. And so we're trying to get it to where what we owe, we'll pay, and what she owes, she'll pay. And so we're trying to work that out now. I haven't met with the assessor on this in a good while.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Hillsbeck,
Yeah,
if you don't mind, wait, hold on. We have a public speaker, Mr. Smeater, actually signed up.
So that's what I was going to recommend.
We'll go
He's
ahead and
raised
hear
his
from
hand to
him.
be recognized. I think we could take some of the guesswork and the theories out and just let him address the question.
Mr. Ray?
How do you do? My name is Ray Smeater. I'm a parish resident. I'm also in private practice. I'm a civil engineer and I'm a land surveyor. I have been doing this work for the parish, specifically for the assessor, since 1978. I initially started the mapping in this parish. I had a contract about 10 years ago with the parish to convert this project to the GIS, and that's how the GIS got started. I've been involved with this thing from the start. I also I do 3 other parishes adjacent to this parish. I have been continuing doing this work for the parish, namely the ownership mapping, and I'm doing other things, other features that the parish GIS uses. I do the base map work for the parish GIS, and I continue to do that. I have been working for the assessor. The assessor has been paying me up until last year. I had what Mr. Hughes said, that he remembers that I met with him about 2.5 years ago, and we discussed that the parish was going to try to do some of this mapping and do some more work up front rather than what the assessor was interested in, and that's the reason that I have come to the parish now. Now, it was mentioned that we may be behind on some of the subdivisions and all. We're not behind on any of the work that I do. What I have mapping, which includes the subdivisions and all the approved lots, is mapped current, except for yesterday's meeting. That's yesterday's the planning commission meeting for this week. Everything I do is current, and I have continued to do this work. The assessor was under the understanding that the parish was going to pick up my bill for some of this other work, and that's the confusion, because I didn't have a contract with the parish, but I continued doing work for the parish, and that's where it stands. What Mr. Hughes said was exactly the way it's transpired. So I just ask y'all to try to help me out here. I've done the work, I've delivered the work, and I just want to continue doing this work for the parish. What I'm charging you is not to exceed $30,000 a year, and that was my agreement. That's what we discussed before. So I just ask for y'all approval on the contract.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Doug, did you have anything, or that's what you want?
Fine.
Mr. Salvo.
Mr. Don.
Yes.
Are you?
Ray.
My first name's Don.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Salvo.
By Ray. Don Ray.
Mr. Don, are you in agreement that the parish owes you $10,000 and that's it today?
No, sir. I think it's a little more than that. I've submitted 4 invoices. I think the total is around 17 or 18 at this point.
Okay.
That's what I believe it is. This is for work that was authorized and that I've been doing for the parish. And again, the assessor has been paying me up to a point, but she didn't. We met again in February, and I didn't bill her for what the parish was supposed to pick up.
Okay, that's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Motion carried.
Little point of order there, Mr. Chairman. You need to vote on the amendment and then vote on the original motion as amended.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell. You're correct. Any opposition to the amended portion of the motion? That portion carries. Any opposition to the original motion? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. McConnell. We've taken up 8 already. Number 9, Edenborn right of passage. I listed this agenda item. Mr. Clark called me today with some concern that there was an issue that the parish may need to take up on a right of passage. I think someone is here from the Edenborn project.
Yeah, my name is David Vey. I'm the existing property owner. I spoke with Mr. Clark, who is with Quadrants, this is his project and application. His Vice President of Development is with me. I've been authorized to speak on his behalf and answer any questions that you may have.
If you could, Mr. Shakespeare.
This item is on the agenda from the Drainage Board, and they were having an issue of right-of-way to get passage from a small part of the development that they're doing in Edenborn, which is located in the city of Gonzales, and they're trying to get passage on part of the residential area to come out through as a secondary entrance through Loosemore. And in order to do that, we had some conflicting servitudes, as it was explained by Mr. Rue, who couldn't be here tonight before. And so what they wanted to do was to combine the road servitude and drainage servitude into one, so that they could put a road, curb and gutter road with underground drainage and everything, improved drainage in one area, in one servitude, which would be great for the parish. And that's basically what they're doing. For that, to enable them to connect, they have agreed to put up $200,000 towards intersection improvements at Loosemore and Highway 44. The reason this was important to do this now is the time that the state is doing the overlay on Highway 44. Mr. Rue and I, the past couple of years, have been lobbying to get all of the intersections from the state to be improved, and they just said since they were doing this project with safety money that they could only do the two that they are currently doing, which is the one at Pelican Point and the one at Highway 2022. But that if the parish would participate, that they could work out something to do the one at Loosemore also, which would be necessary in a few years. So therefore, after meeting and working with things, we found that the $200,000 put up by the developer would be very worthwhile for the parish to move forward. We've had discussions in Transportation Committee, and to do this project right now would save the parish a great deal of money in the long run from having to come back and do it at a later time when they wasn't putting the road in. So that's where we are right now. Mr. Clark is concerned about stopping the process because they are moving forward with the process through the town. And so that's where we are right now. They didn't have any hard numbers yet on the cost of the intersection improvements, but regardless of what exactly the hard numbers are, the parish is coming out a lot better by participating at this point in time rather than waiting later. So that's why we were looking to move forward. And the Drainage Board voted to agree to change the servitude. Then it has to come to the parish council to agree to accept the payment from the developer for intersection improvements. And that's why it's coming to this committee, and then it'll go to the parish council as a whole.
President Hughes.
Appreciate that explanation, Kent. In staff meeting this morning, we were discussing this, Ryan, and Bob and I were trying to figure out exactly what we were doing. Cause I know for a couple of years we were talking about $200,000 from development. Now, Mr. Turner pointed out this morning, his opinion is going to cost a whole lot more than that to do this intersection. We've got a state and parish road coming in east-west and a state road north-south. And so, is it the intent of the council, if this project goes to $500,000 or $600,000, that the parish is going to pay all that excess on this state road? Or what Mr. Turner said, we've had the possibility of a pipeline maybe, and some other issues can get very expensive relocating. And so And then when Edenborn first met with me many, many months ago, the attorney come in, and what they explained to me, they only wanted access into and onto Loosemore Road, but it really wasn't planning on making it a public road, just to be there for emergencies. Now, I have not seen any completed program since then, because I would think if this is going to become a true regular day road onto Loosemore, we probably need to have at least a public hearing or a charrette in that area. If that road is going to, I understand this project is going from 300 acres now to 403 acres. The amount of the project, the size.
May I answer, Mr. Chairman?
Because they told me that they weren't going. They just wanted. They may have to get some right away from the parish, but just for emergency use. So now it sounds like they're talking about a true road connecting to Loosemore toward the rear of this development. So,
all right, maybe I can give a little more background. Some time ago, there was an adjacent property that had submitted for some 300 or 400 lots on Loosemore. I think that property fell by the wayside. However, they made a commitment to put up $200,000 for the improvements to 44 and Loosemore. Mr. Rue had requested that they basically step into those same shoes and assume those same obligations. The documentation that I have seen was the estimate was around $300,000 to $325,000 for that intersection improvement. And this is not the primary access, purely secondary and somewhat tertiary, or for emergency only. The reason it's critical is there's a closing that is scheduled, and this is a requirement of the lender, which is what's created some degree of urgency. And the agreement from inception and original discussions with Mr. Rue, we are probably in the 270 days in the process of this request.
Mr. Shakespeare, in the presentation that they made previously to the council, that they came in here and made a presentation, I think it was to the Finance Committee, they did state that it was a public road, and we did agree to what they had stated already. And this project, make sure everybody understands, this project is in the city of Gonzales. They are coming into the parish with their adjacent or their secondary rite of passage. That's all. And I think it's a very, very, for the parish itself, it's a very small amount of impact, and for us to get this benefit that we would get, I think it's a great opportunity for us to get that. We have a guy that's going to make a development, and he's going to put that towards an intersection improvement. I've met with the DODT and Mr. Rue, and Mr. Rue has followed up on this a number of times in the past, but I was in a meeting with 5 of the top guys there, and they said if the parish participates, that the state will come up with some more money. They didn't know how much. They didn't know how much it was going to be at the time. There's been no hard figures as to how much exactly this is going to cost. But they said with parish participation, they could get the project rolling and move forward, and they would lend some more money. They couldn't fund the whole thing. And so that's where it stood the last time I met with them, about probably 7 or 8 months ago. And since that time, it has been, and I wish Mr. Rue would be here tonight, but he wasn't able to make it. He had a family thing tonight.
And it's my understanding from some discussions with Mr. Rue is DOTD was reluctant to enter into an amendment to the Highway 44 contract without hard money in the account. So it was my understanding that the agreement and the escrow agreement for the $200,000 had to be set aside first before Mr. Rue would take the liability of putting in an amendment to the existing contract.
Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The intersection improvements that we're talking about is Loosemore Road and Louisiana Highway 44. And I know we have a lot of areas like this in the parish, but this is one of the most dangerous intersections in the parish. There have been a number of deaths and accidents at this particular intersection, and if we have somebody who is coming in who can help us to put up the seed money to get the state of Louisiana to improve that intersection, I think we should avail ourselves of that. I'm not sure what the final cost is going to be, and that's something that we're going to work out. But like Mr. Shakespeare said, if the state's already coming in and Highway 44 is scheduled to be worked upon, then this is the opportune time, in my opinion, to go ahead and accept this agreement here and accept the $200,000 and put that in the pot to show that's earnest money for the state of Louisiana, for the Department of Transportation and Development to get going. So I'm going to support. So I'll make a motion that we adopt this cooperative endeavor agreement.
Motion by Mr. McConnell.
Second.
Second by Ms. Fontenot. And we have some further discussion. Mr. Joseph.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I just want to know where Mr. Bob Turner is in this stage here, since we're talking about roads. Is he aware of this, Kent? I mean,
President Hughes?
In the staff meeting this morning, Bob had a couple concerns. Of course, he's got a lot of experience. And just recently, Joseph Area Road, where you've got a state road, a parish road, and another state road intersection by the school. And you see that we pulled that from the road project because a couple things have happened. Since we threw out the number of $200,000, and I don't know if the state DOTD ever said that is the amount 2 years ago that would do traffic signalization and intersection improvement. Mr. Turner told me this morning that Joseph Area Road, which is a fairly simple deal, may be $500,000 for the intersection. He told me he's not sure what this is going to be. So my concern, it goes back to Mr. Fay's comment, just like DOTD doesn't want to get into an open-ended situation. My question is, if we accept this $200,000 and this project comes to $700,000, by acceptance of this $200,000, did we just commit another $500,000 that we may or may not have in the budget? Now, it's my understanding that this is what we're getting into. I just need a legal opinion on this because we have no money in the budget this year. If I understand Kent's comments to where DOTD is going to go ahead and add this, my understanding, they're not going to add this to the current program that they start this Monday. And the time to design, while we pulled Joseph Area intersection out because it's going to slow down the project so much, we took out the intersection, I think, was at 933 and Joseph Area. And so I have never seen this intergovernmental agreement. I don't think Mr. Turner has. If we're going to enter into an agreement with the state, I would like to have it kind of nailed down up front a little bit what our maximum commitment is for dollars. $25,000 is not much for a stairway. It only costs $17, but this could be a lot. This could be quite a bit of money because construction costs since Katrina, and let's just say $200,000 was a close number 2 years ago. Well, since Katrina, we have seen highway construction costs, according to the state, escalate as much as 75 to 100% in some cases. So I just need, if you guys are telling me as a transportation committee or whatever you tell me, that I just need to know what we're doing here. You know, by accepting this money, Mr. Buqua, is the parish obligated to put up the rest of this money regardless of what the rest of that money is?
I have not seen the, is there a proposed cooperative endeavor agreement?
I haven't seen it. Mr. Turner hasn't seen it, and now you tell me as our parish attorney you hadn't seen it?
Mm-hmm. I have not. I don't know if anyone else reviewed it.
And we voting on it?
They didn't.
That's all I know about this, Ken. I mean, we had a staff meeting this morning. Mr. Turner had concerns as the public works director, so.
And I'm sorry. Mr. Shakespeare, we coming. Hold on. Mr. Joseph, were you finished?
That was good enough answer.
Okay, Ms. Fontenot.
I will yield to Mr. Shakespeare.
Mr. Shakespeare.
Further comments, and I'll come back later.
This has been in the works, either through the other development or this development, for about 2 years now. Now, if there's no communication within the administration, then that seems to be an administrative problem. I do know that we have had, with the administration present at DODT in meetings, that they've discussed putting this up, and in return, as you have said numerous times, if the parish has money to put up for state projects, the state will help us fund these projects. And it was very, very plain that they told us point blank that they didn't have the money to do the whole project, had to cut it short. If the parish would participate, they would help fund it. To what extent, you need to get together and figure it out. And that they would also be willing to add this as an addendum item, an add-on item to the current project. And it needed to be done as quickly as possible so they could do that. That was all discussed with representatives from our administration and myself and I think other people. Now, so therefore, yes, we don't know the hard cost right now. I don't know what extent administration has been going forward with this, but I do know that we have an offer from a developer now that is willing to put up $200,000 to an infrastructure improvement in roads in this parish that is very much needed, and that if we try to get it done in conjunction with this road project, that we can save a substantial amount of money. Then if we're going to have to do something, obviously on 44, we're going to have to do some improvements in the very near future, and if we take it on as a parish by ourselves a couple of years from now, it's going to cost us a tremendous amount of money. And so I just think we need to move forward with it and do whatever we need to do to move forward. Obviously, we're going to save a great deal of money overall on the project. And I think I'm like Mr. McConnell. I think it's time to move forward with this, and whoever is involved need to find out what's going on, and let's move forward.
Just a comment. Let's not lose focus of where we're at. We have a request of someone to receive a rite of passage from the parish. In return, he's willing to give the parish a donation of $200,000 for a road improvement project. We're not committing to do a road improvement project. We are in a cooperative endeavor agreement to give a rite of passage in return for a road intersection improvement. We're not saying we're going to do it tomorrow. We're not saying we're going to do it next year. We're saying we may give this rite of passage. You may give us $200,000. Let's not focus on the state right now. Let's focus on that issue. Mr. Thompson, you have the floor.
Thank you.
Ms. Fontenot.
Well, I just wanted to say that the Transportation Committee is focused on turn lanes right now because of what it does for the traffic in our parish. We have the state coming through right now, overlaying a major highway. We have extra homes coming in through the city, not through our own planning and zoning, but through the city of Gonzales, that we know is going to happen there. And if this money is going to be put up in it, and if it doesn't have to be for this project or whatever, but even if it is, we do have plenty of money from what I understand from finance. And we need to start committing some money to these turn lanes because they're very, very important. And it wouldn't seem right to throw the money to some other turn lane when we've got work going to be done and that's starting now. So if we can start to coordinate all of this, and if right now all we're doing is asking for this money to be accepted and giving them the rite of passage to do this, then I think it's prudent that we do so.
President Hughes.
Hey, sure I'm not misunderstood here, y'all. Am I understand that no one around this table has seen this cooperative endeavor agreement?
Oh, I don't think that's true.
I'm asking the question.
We're not agreeing to.
Am I the only one that hasn't seen this agreement? And now, Mr. Buchar, you're saying you haven't seen it.
I have not. Some other legal may have.
My only question, obviously, we want to improve intersections.
If I could, President Hughes, remember, we're just making a recommendation to the full council.
I understand.
Okay.
You mentioned Mr. Shea Snyder, the administration dropped the ball here. That wasn't your words. Now, I have never seen a traffic design done for this intersection by DOTD or Mr. Rue when he was Public Works Director. All I ever heard was a number that a previous developer was going to give us. And in my meetings with DOTD, they've never indicated that they know what the price of this project is going to be. Now, so who, you said you met with some people. Do you remember the names of those persons so we can follow up with them in DOTD?
Robinson was one of them.
Ronnie Robinson?
Yes.
Okay. Was Mr. Schmidt involved, the district supervisor and engineer?
I don't remember.
It's not in the MPO programs. It's not in the transportation improvement plan for the next 25 years. So we got to just try and get information so we can call these people. And I will. I mean, I'm not against the project, by any means. I want to make sure we get it done right, and legal look at this, and we see what we're committing to. So if Larry can, and we got between now and next Thursday, do that way with legal looking at this, and if he says, Ronnie, if you accepted $200,000, you have an open-ended deal, you have to do this turn lane. If it's just like an impact fee kind of thing, it's got to be dedicated to this intersection, and I would think that's what this developer wants. I don't think they want us to go spend the money somewhere else. Yeah. So I just need to know legally what we're obligating ourselves to, and I think all of us want to know that.
Mr. Valentine.
I missed the last drainage board meeting, but did we discuss this as the last drainage board meeting? I mean, I got the cooperative endeavor agreement in my hand, and you know, it states G, that the parish and the residents along Loosemore Road are desirous of improving the intersection of Louisiana State Highway 44, Loosemore Road, such as Exhibit B. Then in the agreement, it stipulates the $200,000 to be placed American Title Insurance escrow agent to be held in escrow and dispersed as follows, and through intersection improvements. Now, it's got drainage board, it's got the Parish of Ascension, and Edenborn developers on it. So I mean, I don't know who in your administration, you know, Mr. Ronnie, who got that, but I mean, this is what I have.
Could we borrow it and give it to Mr. Buqua, since he hadn't seen it? And one of the problems may be we got a different drainage board attorney. Then we got
I don't know where that.
There you go, Larry.
So let's not confuse that, because each committee has a different attorney. So
right. Yeah.
Another attorney may have reviewed it.
And this is not something. This is not something that hadn't been done before. I mean, we've the subdivisions come in and they have to, you know, cough up the developer some money for turn lanes in my district and some others that you know, that are held in escrow for when that turn lane is done. So I think Mr. Berger's right. We don't want to confuse what we're doing, but we do need to act on this so these gentlemen can go forth with purchase of the land and get the project going.
You got a motion right now.
Yeah, we have a motion. Mr. Sigler, you have a comment?
That's my comment.
My only comment would be that I am, in fact, I dealt with O'Neill Parrington on the wording of the contract. I believe it's the same one you've got for the drainage board. I believe it gives 24 months time for puts the $200,000 on deposit for 24 months, and after 24 months, if nothing takes place, then the $200,000 goes back to the developers. And that was based on some phone calls that we did to see what it would take to bring a project from scratch to do the road improvements, because nothing's on there. Since nothing's happened on the road improvements thus far, and Bob and I had talked about that, it will take, we figure, at least 18 months, best case, to get the thing kicked off. So 24 months will give us the time, should the parish decide to do it, to get the project started and underway.
But I understand you to say it'd be 18 months before we
I figure
can
it'd be
start.
minimum, and that's Bob's
project
better than mine.
It's going to be over with by then.
When he and I talked about it, to get something designed, ready to go, bid at the state level, will take 18 months. Unless they, you know, now that's, there could be some changes in that. If the state could amend their current contract and throw some more on there, then that might speed it up. But it's got to be designed, it's got to be approved. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. And that's where the 24-month number came in on the agreement, which the developers agreed with. When we talked back and forth on the telephone, felt like it would be better not to rush and give more time to actually do the job.
Well, I guess that was my question, because I understand this project overlay is going to be through in, what, 6 or 7 months?
I don't know.
I know the bridge is going to be out 6 months.
I'm not following that project.
Okay. Mr. Thompson.
So, Mr. Ziegler, you think it's any way possible that since we know this project is coming and the parish intentions are to do that turn lane, we could push the state into doing it right now when they start the road construction?
Be careful how you answer that, Mr.
Right.
Ziegler. We haven't been too successful in
I
pushing the
don't
state.
want to answer that question because I don't know.
Yeah.
But I will say this. If we move now, it's possible.
Well, we're doing turn lanes on state roads right now in certain areas. Right now, we have help from the developer to do this project. And my concern is, why can't we push it now and just get it over with instead of let it lay around and have to come back, say 2-3 years down the road, and we pay double for it?
Let me say this. After this morning's staff meeting,
Mr. Sigler, I'm sorry if I could interrupt. Guys, we're losing focus again.
Okay.
In the cooperative endeavor agreement, it says 2 years.
Yes.
Right.
The developer simply wants to know if we're going to allow him a right of passage in exchange for $200,000. We can talk about how we're going to do a road project later. We have a question on the motion. Mr. Shake Snyder, do we have a second?
You don't need a second. Vote on the question.
Vote on the question. Any opposition?
I oppose.
2 opposition. Motion passes. Motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Ms. Fontenot. Any objection?
Object.
Mr. Savoy objects. Motion carries. Number 10, proposed agenda for regular council meeting of June 21st. Please review what you have in front of you. Mr. Thompson.
What's 17 and 18? It's got Mr. Larry McCoy name by it. We voted on those.
Mr. President, if you mind, we have a question on 17 and 18, which has to do with planning and zoning. May I call Mr. Sigler up?
Talking about the agenda for next week?
Yes, sir. Mr. Sigler, could you come up? We have a question by Mr. Thompson on the agenda for next Thursday, 17 and 18, and they state approval of PUD contract Orange Grove, legal counsel Larry Bouquois, and also approval of PUD contract River Crossing, legal Larry Bouquois. I think in the PUD ordinance, does it state that you approve the conceptual plan and then you come back and approve the contract? Or am I wrong? Do you know?
As far as I'm concerned,
let me try to answer that in a conversation with Mr. O'Neill Parrington. There's some confusion obviously our ordinance is fairly new. O'Neill, in talking to me today, thinks you don't, that you approved it when you voted on it last week. Now, him and Ricky have met this morning talking about this and he read the ordinance to me over the phone, and they're still talking.
I thought we approved it last week.
You did.
You approved the conceptual plan.
And the ordinance says, and they read it to me, I don't remember the exact language, nor do I have the ordinance in front of me, that now it goes back to the Planning Commission with the conditions that you put on it.
Yes, sir.
And they don't think it goes back to the council. Now, I'm repeating something. Please understand that over a telephone conversation with Mr. Parrington today, when the staff reviewed the agenda for next week, that was a question we asked, is how does this process now work? And so that's what Mr. Parrington. I did not get a chance to talk to Mr. Babin on that today, just Mr. Parrington, but Mr. Parrington is the one that works for the planning and zoning people. So, and they have been reading it to each other, making sure they understand it on what that contract means. once the council approves the conceptual plan with conditions. One of the questions that came up in language in the ordinance says that the Planning Commission can either approve, disapprove, or I think the language was amend with conditions, if I remember O'Neill's discussion. But he gave them opinion that they couldn't defer it or send it back once it got to that meeting on their agenda. So some of the Planning Commission members that met with me today wanted to defer it because of concerns about the project, and they were given an opinion they couldn't do that. They had to move it forward or reject it. Now, so there's some questions that we have to get our attorneys all together and just see what happens in this regard.
President, I thought this was the governing authority for Ascension Parish right here.
I'm not going to say anything about it. Obviously, you are. I'm just telling you what the attorney told me over the phone today. And Mr. Valentine and I hadn't had a chance to talk about this agenda item. And we're probably going to need to have a meeting with Mr. Boucla.
Who put it on the agenda?
Mr. Patterson, you know who called in this agenda item?
This was approved at the last council meeting. I made a phone call to O'Neill Parrington to ask, do we need to put it on the next council agenda or not? It had been approved. And that was the answer. This was his response, that I needed to put it on there as approval of the PUD contract both for Orange Grove and River Crossing.
The conversation today, most things different. So I said we need to get the attorneys together on this. And
if Mr. O'Neill asks to be on, let's keep it on. If we need to pass or scratch it at the council meeting, we will.
We'll work it out.
Ms. Fontenot, you have something?
Yes, I have a serious concern about this because when we were going through the process of doing a PUD ordinance, it was told that this would be a new type of zoning. Well, zoning has to be introduced as an ordinance, and it has to have a public hearing 2 weeks later to finalize an ordinance for it to become law. So somebody's got to get something here straight, because that's the way I understood it, that a PUD is a new zoning type thing, and that's not the way we handle zoning.
It was introduced.
Not as an introduction. It wasn't done in the formality.
Okay, we can
tell us what we do.
We can settle that later.
A conversation with the attorney who now knows the one who asked me.
We'll leave it on the agenda. If we need to scratch it at that time, we'll do so. Any other items? Ms. Fontenot.
I do have one, Ms. Suzanne. I would appreciate it if you would list under mine, after all of the items, A, B, C, so forth, chairman's report at the end. Mm-hmm.
You're right. Anything else? Any other concerns? Anything for Ms. Suzanne? Ms. Fontenot, you finished? Ms. Fontenot, you finished? We'll entertain number 11.
Move to adjourn.
Motion adjourned by Mr. Shea Snyder, second by Mr. Joseph. Meeting adjourned.